All right, I am super excited to be out here on the west coast near Tofino with Angela Willard at Low Tide. Now, Angela is my beautiful and gorgeous wife, but also a phyco medicinal expert, in my opinion. She's been studying seaweeds for a number of years. When we first moved out here, that was your goal, and 15 years in, now you know so much about these. I'm just really excited to share with our community a bit more about how they can start to uncover seaweeds and get to know them a little better. So thank you for joining me.
Oh yeah, happy to be here. So as a clinical herbalist, I really was excited when we moved out here to add the seaweeds to my herbal repertoire. And I couldn't find a lot of information on the benefits and the virtues of seaweeds in therapeutic use. And so as I started to dig more and more, I was discovering so many phenomenal aspects that we can really use in our day and time and what we're facing environmentally, based on the phytonutrient gaps we're seeing, all kinds of things from heart disease to cancer therapies, to weight loss. It's just got a whole myriad of issues that it helps when we bring them and consume them into our daily regular lifestyle and diet.
So seaweeds are like a panacea from the ocean in all the different forms to really work with our health. Hey, they're here kind of sharing with us that. Is that not?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I have a biased opinion because I am completely smitten and in love with them. But truly, when you start to look into the research, it really is phenomenal, the things that they cover health-wise. So really, in my practice, I actually will be recommending it to anybody. I think it is beneficial to all ages, all walks of life, everybody. Animals also, we use it in pet food and livestock feed, also for the environment itself. The proliferation and health of the seaweeds is huge for the rehabilitation of our ecosystems. And all in all, the support of seaweeds in their support with us is something that I think really needs to get out there.
Okay, yeah. So there's lots about them. We're obviously just gonna touch in on some of them, but here we are at Low Tide. So, can you tell us, like, for those people who are interested in getting into seaweeds, what's kind of the first thing they should look at when it comes to working with seaweeds or collecting seaweeds? Because a lot of us are, maybe not knowledgeable like yourself. How would we kind of start? Where would we start?
Well, first of all, when we're coming out here, we want to make sure we always come with a friend, safety first, have really good footwear, and never turn your back on the open ocean. So those three components are really important. Also, treading lightly with your footsteps on this precious ecosystem. Beyond that, it's not like the mushroom world where, misidentification can be deadly. Seaweeds are a lot safer to embark on as far as consuming them and identifying them. At least, especially in the Pacific Northwest here. And then beyond that.
So are there any poisonous seaweeds?
Well, there are a few toxic ones. I wouldn't call them poisonous. Some that will give you some indigestion, some bellyache, some diarrhea, but usually they'll pass through if you are even drawn to consume them, which is not often, based on them having kind of an offensive smell and mouthfeel to them.
So, like, out of all the seaweeds, how many, like, what are we talking about here with?
3.
Oh, really? Only 3?
And they aren't something that you see widely in abundance. So if you do want to learn about, the specifics of seaweeds, toxicity, contraindications, identification, and go a little deeper, I am currently filming a Wild Rose College course on Seaweed Therapeutics. So that's really what we're out here doing, the bulk of our explorations and sharing with. But we just wanted to go into a little bit of what you can look for if you're really just looking to understand a little bit more. So the way that I love to introduce seaweeds is by exploring their color categories. So it's a really basic breakdown that you can learn that will teach you about their therapeutic benefits overall versus needing to understand the identification and specific properties of each one. What you can do is start to learn about the colors. So those 3 colors are red, green, and brown, and they are obviously related to their pigments. And those pigments are specific to the way in which they're able to produce their chemistry that helps them thrive out in the wild. So the reds are things like the nori and the dulse that you'll classically know. The greens, the most popular one is the sea lettuce or Ulva lactuca. And then the browns, we have a blend of, we have some rockweeds like the bladderwrack or fucus. And then we also have the kelps, which are the giant seaweeds like the bull kelp, the giant kelp, the alaria or wakame.
Awesome. So, okay, so there's 3 different categories of seaweeds, and each one has a little different, is it phytonutrients?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's right. I mean, phycology is the study of seaweeds. And so, yeah, you could call them phyconutrients. They really are phytonutrients still. And so the reds, they contain really strong antiviral properties specifically. So that's what we use them for. And then they also have the carrageenans and agars. So the fibers, the polysaccharide components to them that give them their flexibility and strength, but they also help with keeping our digestive systems clean and with elimination of any kind of toxins or other isotopes that we don't want in our body from environmental pollutions. Now, the greens are specifically immunomodulating, so they really help with balancing the immune system, bringing it up if it's really low or bringing it down if it's overacting on oneself. And then, of course, the chlorophyll content in there helps with all kinds of health aspects, as we know from the plant kingdom. And then with the browns, they're some of my favorite category. Those are the big kelps and the rockweeds as well, but they've got iodine, and iodine is an essential micronutrient for brain health, breast health, gut health, thyroid, all kinds of essential processes in the body we need iodine for. And then there's also the fucoxanthin, which helps with the liver health and the fat metabolism side of things.
Or like the carotenoid?
Yeah, it is. It is a carotenoid. That's right. So it is what gives it its brown hue. It is a carotenoid. And then we also have the alginate aspect, which is kind of like the agars and carrageenans in the reds, but this is what we find in the browns. It helps to move through our digestive tract, keep it flushing out of all of the unwanted pieces from indigestion, any kind of toxins. Also helps with eliminating any kind of radioactive isotopes. We'll use that if there's any kind of a radiation fallout in the area to help eliminate that from the body. And it's got a very protective component to all of our cells.
And are those kind of like polysaccharides, or are they similar?
They are, yeah. So they're a polysaccharide. They're a starchy carbohydrate substance, which is built into them to help them with their fluidity and flexibility in the water.
They have a bit of that immunomodulating effect that way, similar to the mushrooms. Is that correct? Like the fucoidin and these?
Yeah, so the fucoidin is also another aspect in the browns. In the kelp specifically, you find it at its highest levels. And that really helps with cell health. So it is extremely important in the prevention of any cell mutation. Hence why it's used so widely in current cancer research and application.
That's pretty exciting, some of the research that's being done on
it. It is, yeah. So there's a lot of exciting aspects that they can be used with therapeutically in conjunction, actually, with modern medicine. So it's not kind of like a one or the other kind of idea, whereas what we're finding in the studies is that they can be used in conjunction to help both treat cancer patients as well as mitigate some of the effects of the radiation and other conventional therapies that can be hard on the body as well.
Okay. So for those of us who are just like kind of, new to seaweeds or want to work with seaweeds, maybe we don't live near the ocean, or maybe we can harvest them, but how would you suggest the best way to start incorporating them into diet, into health regime, or what's the best way to start working with them, like functionally?
Yeah, so you just want to use a little bit, 5 to 20 grams of dried seaweed daily
That's
into
like how
your.
much? That's like
Oh, it's probably about 4 teaspoons of powdered seaweed. It's very
okay.
minimal. If you want to supply your own, you can harvest a small amount for yourself. Do get to know the safe practices. We never want to rip the seaweeds off of
Mm.
the rocks, always giving it a little haircut, the top third of the seaweed, so that it can be reproducing and
So wait,
harvested
it'll grow back
sustainably.
if you don't cut it, or if you cut it.
Somewhat.
Yeah.
It'll either grow back or reproduce. So
Mm.
one or the other. So it's really important to just cut it versus tearing it off the rocks, which then ends its life cycle completely. And if you get a nice variety of red, green, and brown into your diet, you're getting all of the wonderful spectrum of aspects that help to enhance health.
So you mentioned powder, like 4 grams or so. Is that like a daily dose, or how is that? What are your?
Yeah, it would be 5 to 20 grams, depending on the person, the size, your weight, your age. So starting with 5 grams or 1 teaspoon a day is probably sufficient.
And is that like in a powder form they take it, or how are other ways they might want to start working with seaweeds in their diet?
You could do powder form or flaked. I also recommend that you do a variety of raw, cooked, or fresh,
Okay.
dried as well. And so just kind of keeping that variety going, make sure that you're pulling out all the different medicinal aspects, because some of it needs to be cooked, some of it needs to be raw.
Awesome. Okay. Hey, thank you. I know there's so many other ways they can work with seaweed, baths, externally, internally. Just thanks for sharing this. And for those of you who are interested in learning more about seaweed, Angela is putting together a course for Wild Rose College that's really a deep dive into going much further into understanding how seaweeds could be used for health. But also, I know that you do the seaweed gardens, right? So seaweed gardens at Instagram. Is that your handle for
Yeah, that's right. Seaweed_gardens. You can find me on Instagram. I like to do some little tidbits of education through that medium. And so you can find me there, and then also look for the release of the program at wildrosecollege.ca in the spring of 2021.
All right. Awesome. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to sharing more on seaweeds in the future. Thanks,
Bye.
man.
Thank you.
Okay.